Okay, here we are, and I'm ready to show you how I got started with these free images that I used for my little construction site vehicles that you saw. So I came to teachingwithchildrensbooks.com, teachingwithchildrensbooks.com, and then up here it says search this site. So I searched for good night construction site activities, and I came to this page that has a lot of fun things that you could do. And I eventually looked through all of these, and what I did, cute stuff, but I just went down here to where it says download your printables here. So I clicked on that, and I had to sign up, but these are the ones that I got. So you'll sign up and you'll get these images right here. Okay. Click get it now, and it'll be downloaded for you. Okay, actually when I clicked on it again, what it does is it opens up the PDF file right then and there, and it gives you the terms of use. You can use it for a classroom if you're a teacher, or personal use. It may not be shared, and that's why I'm having you go to the website to get it. And here's the website again, teachingwithchildrensbooks.com. All right, so here are the images, right? Those are all the images that we'll use. Then they have some other things here that you could print and cut out too, like make puzzles. You could have a child if you're doing homeschooling or just for fun. And heck, when I was a kid, we used to like to play school, so maybe your kids like to play school and they could do that. These pages here, I would love for one of you to tell me in the comments, what in the world are these for? These holes all over these. There are no instructions, and I just don't get it. And anyway, there's some more stuff here yet. So this would be perfect for some of you whose children are going to be going to school soon, or if you have little kids. We're going to go back to these guys right here though, because these are the ones that I used in the project. So what I'm going to do, there are 5 of them all together, so I can get 4 of them right here. So I'm going to come down here, and I need to bring this down a little bit so you can see. I'm going to come here to my snipping tool. If you have a Windows machine, you should have a snipping tool. Do a search for it if you're not sure where it is. So I'm going to get the snipping tool, and on a Mac you have a tool similar to this. I just don't know what it's called. But you're going to get the snipping tool. Click on it to open it. Here's my snipping tool open now. I'm going to do a new snip, and I'm just going to go like this and snip these guys. Just the tractors, just the trucks. So did I cut off anybody? Nope, looks good. So now all I have to do is go to Edit, Copy, and then I can go back to Silhouette, and these are the ones I've already done. Let me move these over so I can show you later maybe. And let's scroll in more. Okay. Let me set this up the way it would be originally when you'd first get here. This would be on Auto CAMEO, and my grid or my registration marks would be off. So now what I would do is, after I said edit and copy, I just have to right click and say paste. And it's going to put those right here just like I want them. They're awfully small though, so I'm going to make them larger. But before I'm totally done with that other page, let's go back and get the 5th truck. So I'm going to go back to my Google Chrome, and it was this one right down here, the excavator. So that's the only other one I need to get. So again, I'm going to come over here to the snipping tool, and I've already got these things snipped. I don't want them anymore, so I'm going to go to new snip. Click on that, and then I'm just going to drag across this one so I can get this as a new snip. Just like that. If I mess up, I just have to do new snip and try it again. Now all I'm going to do is say edit, copy, and I can delete this now, and I don't need to save this snip, so I'm going to say no. Come back over here to Silhouette, edit, or I'm sorry, right click and paste. And there's this one. Alright, now if you want these to go just as blocks like this, it'd probably be pretty easy to do that. But I'm going to show you how I made these into the pieces for the cute little mobile. So the first thing I did was I went over here and I said trace. Trace, select the trace area. I'm just going to trace it. And this is going to be one that's going to be a print then cut. So I'm going to up the threshold quite a bit like that. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to say trace and detach. So that allows me to get rid of this piece, and all I have is the tractor that I want. As you can see, there's no more white behind him. Okay, so he's done. So now I'm going to do these guys. Select a trace area. And I'll up my threshold again. Perfect. Trace and detach. And I'll bring him out. And he's ready. Got to do it to this one now. Select the trace area. Go like this. Did I get all of them? Yeah. Up the threshold. Okay. Trace and detach. And the last two, select the trace area. Up the threshold so I get the whole thing. Oops, I'm getting some extra junk in there. See a little speck down here I want to get rid of, but you know what? I can get rid of that. Let me show you. That little speck right now. Oh, I got a couple little specks. Let's move this down, the threshold down a little bit. All right, so now I just have one speck down here I want to get rid of. So I can actually just move this up like this, and that's going to be outside of the trace area now, so it's not a problem. And I'll just say trace and detach. Get him over. And the last one we need to do is this one. Select the trace area, trace around him. Now I notice I didn't get all the shovel right here. If you'll look really closely, you'll see what I mean. See how it's cut off a little bit? So what I can do is come up here where this box is and drag it out just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. I don't want to get that black line. There we go. Okay, now let me scroll back out and see. I need to up my threshold. And now select and trace and detach. There's that guy. Okay, so now I can get rid of this thing because I no longer need it. I'll just hit delete on my keyboard. And let's scroll back out and see what we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tractors or trucks, just like they had in the story. So I'm going to try to make them all about the same size. So let's scroll in. And maybe a little more. Okay. So I'm thinking that maybe, well, the first thing I am going to do before I even resize them is I'm going to add the offset to each one. Because I like the nice white offset. It just makes them more sturdy, and I just like the way it looks. So I'm just going to come to the first one here. Offset. And I'm going to change its color to white. Now, I don't know. I'm going to grab both these and group them. Now, if I was using this for Cricut Design Space, I would go ahead and you see this red line right here? I would come up here and change it to about the third gray over so that it's a gray line like that, because that will help me with my print then cut if that's the way I'm going to do it. But this is what I was wondering. I was wondering if you can put an offset on a bunch of them at the same time. I never tried this. Let's see. Move him. Wait. Let's move him out. Let's just see if I can put an offset around all of these. Offset? I can. How about that? And change them all to white. Oh, but I couldn't have them connected like this because look what happened. So let me hit Control Z several times on my keyboard to delete that. Go back to before I put the offset on. All right, so I have to make sure that they're not touching each other at all. There we go. So now I can grab them all at once and come over here to the offset. Click on the star and say offset. And I can change all the offsets to white. And I can actually, for Cricut Design Space, change all of these line colors to that third gray, just like, did it get them all? Yes, it did. Just like that. And now I got to go to each one individually and group it. Now, if I grab this one, I can right click and say group. Or another thing you can do that's quicker, in my opinion, grab both of these and just hit Control G for group on your keyboard. See, now I don't want to move that until I group it. So grab all these, Control G for group, grab all these, Control G for group. And I think, yep. So these are all ready to go, almost. Here's the thing. If you'll remember what you saw in the beginning of the video, I had my trucks all double-sided. So here's how I did that. Oh, but before I do that, I want to put the holes in them. So what I did was I went over here to the shape, to the drawing tool, held down my shift key and drug out, made a circle like that, about that size. Looks pretty good to me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I have 5 of these so they're all the same size. So I can click on this and come over to the replicate panel if I want to, and I can say to duplicate it so many times. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold down my Alt key and drag out to 5 of them, and one for good measure in case I mess up. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy right here, and I'm going to grab both it and the truck, and I'm going to come up here and center it first. And that puts a dead center right like that, right? So I know that's approximately where I want it to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up now with the arrow keys on my keyboard, just moving it up. And, I'm just eyeballing this. And I think I'll move it just a tiny bit to the left. So what I'm trying to imagine is where would be the center mark of that for the weight. I think that's called the fulcrum. Okay. Anyway, so watch. So now what I'm going to do is grab both of those, come over here to the modify panel way over here on the right, and say subtract. Oops. Grab this and subtract. So what that did then is it subtracted that hole right out of there. Make sure everything's still grouped, and you can see the gray shining through now. So that's ready to go, except for we need his other part. I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. Put his here, grab both things and center. Then I don't want my string for my mobile to go all the way down there. You can imagine I want it to be closer to the top up here. So I can try to keep it where it is. I'm going to select it, hit the arrow key on my keyboard, and move it up to where I think might be a good place for it. Looks good to me. With it selected, I'll hold down my shift key, grab the truck, and say subtract. Okay, make sure they're both grouped together still. I can right click and group, and there's that guy. Okay, let's do this one. Again, get this, grab both, center, and that looks like it's pretty much far enough up. I might move it a little bit to the right because it seems like it could be a little right heavy. Like this part of the paper was more weight than that. Okay, with this still selected, hold down my shift key, grab the truck, the tractor, and say subtract. Group everything back together. Done. Take this one, get his little hole for his mobile, grab both things, put them together. Then I'm going to take this one and bring it up with my arrow key to about there. Okay. It is selected. Hold down my shift and get the other piece and say subtract. Group everything together again. Last one. So I won't be needing this guy. Take this down here. Center these two together. When I was both selected, the centering option comes available. Okay, now I don't believe that's where that should be, so I'm going to move it. Whoopsie. I'm going to move this over a little bit more like this and then up. Like that. Grab both things and say subtract. And while they're still so selected, group. Okay, now the other thing that I want to do is, like I said, I wanted these to be about 5 inches wide. So this one's way too big. Let's see, I can make it 8.5 by 11. I can make it larger if I want to, like that. Just what I'm trying to do is to make sure that these will all fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, because that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to come up here now to this page setup panel, and I'm going to change the media size to letter. That shows me how much space I have. But not only that, since this is going to be a print then cut, I have to come up here and turn on the registration marks. Okay, and now I can get an idea of how well this is going to fit. Now look, that's just barely going to fit, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller like that, because it has to fit within these lines. If you don't see the red lines right here, go back to this first part of the page setup and have show cut border checked. Now we have one of these, but what I need to do now is I'm going to mirror this one because it's going to be on the opposite side because I want it to be doubled. So to mirror this easily, one of the ways you can do is to come over here to the replicate panel and just say mirror right. And that makes one just like that, mirror to the right. You can see if it's going to fit. Well, it's not going to fit like this, but I bet if I twirl it around a little bit, I can get it to fit. Let's see. Yep, now it fits just like that. So what I'll do is I'll just group these two together for now. And the next thing I would do is go ahead and let me show you how you finish this in Silhouette Studio. For Silhouette Studio, all you have to do is take this and go to Send. Now recall, this is going to be a print then cut. So one of the first things I need to do then is to come up here to where it says File, Print. There's a preview of what my print's going to look like, and it's perfect. So I would continue to print, and here's where I would change my preferences. Rather than having it as standard, I usually make mine as high and say OK, and then I would print. Okay, then after it's printed, I will put this thing that's been printed, and it has these marks, this little square, this line, and this line on my page. I have to make sure when I put it there that this little square is always, always, always in the upper left-hand corner of my mat. Okay, so then look at this though. There's going to be an issue here, and I did this wrong the first time I did it. I thought it looked like it was just cutting around the outside of the tractor, but it's not. If you'll notice, there's a red line inside and a red line outside. So that's what it cut. So what you need to do is you need to highlight this stuff and come over here to where it says Cut. Click on Cut Edge. Perfect. Now that's what it's going to do. It's going to cut this one out all around the edge, and it's also going to cut out that little circle, and then it's going to cut this one out. Now, I've already done a test on my cardstock, so I know the weight of my cardstock and how old my blade is, what I have to have my settings on. So I have it on cardstock, textured heavy. I actually have my blade depth on a 9, my force on a 30, and my speed on 4. Right now it shows that my machine is unavailable, and that's because it's not turned on. But anyway, then I would just go Send, and it would send it and cut it perfectly, and I'd be good to go. So let's go back to design so I can show you on one more or two more of these what I did. So again, I'm just going to bring this guy over. He fits beautifully. I could make him a little bit larger if I wanted to, but he's about 6 inches. That's fine. So what I can do is I can come over to the replicate panel and say mirror to the right because I need that mirrored to the right, because when I tape them together, they have to be mirror images of each other. So again, I would go to Send. First, I would go to File, Print. Here's the print preview. I would say Print and change my preferences if need be to make it a better quality print. But I've already done this, so I'm going to cancel that. And then the next thing I would do, look how it's going to cut. It's going to cut the outer edge of the offset and the inside right around the truck. I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to grab both of these and say cut edge, just like that. And then I would send it. So design, let's get one more. I'll group these two together and they'll stay. Okay, here's one more. This guy here's a little different. Let's see. Okay, another thing that you can do if you want to make two of these instead of coming to the replicate panel is you can go to right click and say flip horizontal. Whoops, no. You really can't. You have to duplicate it first and then flip it horizontally. So you would duplicate, and then this one you would flip horizontally. Okay. So again, I would take this one and hold down my shift key maybe and twirl it around till I think it might fit. Maybe. All right, that's going to fit by the hair of my chinny chin chin. If you look closely, notice it's not going outside the cut lines, nor is this one, and they are not overlapping. So again, I would go to File, Print, and then I would go to Send. And again, it's not going to cut it right. Highlight it all. Say Cut Edge. Design. When I'm done with that one, I could group these because they fit nicely if I want to do it again. And then I would just continue the same way with these two. So then all you have to do is to go ahead and finish this, put the strings in there. I guess you could hang it from a hanger if you'd like to, and maybe you'd even like to make a sign up above it, you know, good night construction site or something like that. Okay, if you go to my new Facebook page, you're going to see that I have several books already done. Matter of fact, today we're going to be learning how to make a Pete the Cat for the kids if they'd like one. But for the construction site, here it is here. All you have to do is click on it and it takes you to a different website. Kids, hey, Layla and Levi, it's Grandma here again with another story, and everybody else who's out there watching. Anyway, today's book is Good Night Construction Site. If you have the book, have your mom or dad pause the video, run and go get your book so you can read along with me. If you don't have the book, just read along with me right now. Let's get started. Good Night Construction Site. So anyway, back to these guys. I hope you'll join me if you have a kid in your family or if you know somebody who has a small child. I just think it's something different for them to be able to do. If they have the book, they got it from the library, or they can download it from the library as a Kindle version, or you can purchase it. And I have links for you to purchase them if you want to. And I sure appreciate you using my Amazon links for anything. Over on my website, I have the links for these things. But it's just fun to just watch and read along with me and maybe have your own little construction site vehicles that you could play with. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for all your support. And I hope you'll be joining me over there on the new Facebook group. Bye, y'all.